problem was, so when I do my screening, I don't just screen the surrogate, I screen the husband. I go to the home study myself. I'll fly to wherever it is. I actually do it myself, the home study. I require that all adults over the age of 18 be there. I ask that the children be there if they're not at soccer games or whatever. Because I think you can get a really good idea of how someone will take care of your child by looking at how her children behave and what her home looks like, etc. I will give you a 3 or 4 page written report of what happened at the in-home interview. I'll give you a picture of the front of the house. I'll describe the neighborhood. I'll describe the behavior of the children. One thing that I'm really cognizant of is whether her partner, husband, whatever, is supportive, because that's what went wrong with the personal surrogacy or my daughter's work. The surrogate was wonderful, but her husband was atrocious. And it's in every good surrogacy contract that if somebody's on bed rest, which she was pregnant with twins and she had complications, so she was on bed rest. So it's written into the contract, you have to do, you have to pay for somebody to clean her house once a week and do the laundry, because you don't want her doing that. You have to pay for childcare. A lot of these women have just had their own children. They have a 1-year-old, they have a 3-year-old, and you don't want them picking up your child if they're pregnant, or their child if they're pregnant with yours. So in my particular case, and I don't want to scare everybody because this is not going to happen to you, the husband was a complete jerk, and I ended up, so he wouldn't accept the money for, he wanted money, he didn't want me to set up for house cleaning to come. He didn't want for me to set up for daycare for the children. So what I think was he really just wanted the money and he wanted to pocket it. So I said, hey, I want to set all these things up, and he said, why don't you come here and do it yourself? Which was, I think.
So you moved in with them?
I lived with them for 3 weeks.
Wow.
I slept on the couch. They had 2 dogs. They had 2 cats. Yeah.
That's a nightmare. And the agency didn't step in to kind of facilitate it?
No,
No. That's awful.
No. Yeah. So, anyway.
So what grew out of that was that you said, I'm going to go do it better.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. I said I can do it better. I'm passionate about it. The other thing is, when I look at surrogates, I want somebody who doesn't need this money to eat. I won't take anybody on state or federal assistance. I'll take people whose kids are on Medicaid, because that actually is a lot of people. But I won't take anybody who they need this to feed their family, or I don't want anybody who's in duress. I've had clients come to me after having a child with another agency, and they've said, oh, I don't even know this guy, this other agency, their philosophy is you want somebody who needs the money so badly they'll do everything that you say. And I'm like, I want somebody who's made good decisions, and if they have, they're not going to be in that situation. So to review for everybody here, so we'll do, just because people just came in, I do FBI background checks, I do criminal, which is a criminal records check, I do child protective services checks, I'm going to start doing driver's license checks, because I just heard that somewhere else and I think it's a really good idea. I do my own home study, so I'm the one who goes to be in their home, and I'll write a 3 or 4 page write-up. I'll give you a picture of the house that they live in. I'll write about how supportive their spouse was. That's where I got off on that tangent. So I really pay attention in the home studies. I don't let the husband sit in the background. I ask him questions. I ask him what he did when his wife was pregnant with their own children, see how supportive he is, see how engaged he is. If there's no involvement or support, I'm not going to work with that surrogate. The other thing is just, I'm sort of going backwards, but the first level screening we do is on my website. So there's 20 questions basically, and there are things like body mass index you could fail, just being in a state that's not good for surrogacy laws. So then if they pass those 20 questions, they go to the next level of another 30 questions, and after that, they get a written, really detailed application. Just a few funny facts, because I was in technology before. I asked the folks who designed my website, let's see every login that somebody's done, so I can actually see if somebody logs in once, changes their body mass index, changes the state they live in, see it all the time. So, you know, those people are written off. So I think that's an interesting little story. I would say about 80% of the people who hit the website don't make it through, you know, the second level of screening. And then of the ones who do make it through, probably another, I would say 40% don't make a screening past the written. And then, you know, I do the home study before you start paying money for medical exams and psych exams. Oh, the other thing that we do is we do review the medical records ahead of time. So nobody's wasting their time flying somebody in if there's something, some medical record. I work with either one of the clinics that I work with, or with the perinatologist. The other really interesting thing I talked about in the session, or in the introduction part, was I've been working a lot with Shady Grove Fertility. I'll work with, you know, pretty much any reputable fertility clinic. But the good thing about Shady Grove is they have their own database of donor eggs, and now there are donor egg agencies that are out there, and they have these huge databases. They can pick if somebody has freckles or not. They're not screened, if you're talking about the big donor egg agencies. So they just have somebody who's expressed interest, and you know, they're in a database, so it looks like they have all these people. And I've had a few, you know, things that didn't go so well with those big donor egg agencies, like the person didn't show up for a critical appointment. So working with Shady Grove or any of the clinics that have their own pool of egg donors, they've already screened them medically. They've already screened them psychologically. And it, you know, they'll match you in 2 or 3 weeks. The other thing with Shady Grove in particular is they do a shared risk program. Well, they do a shared donor program because they discovered, you know, 15 years ago that a lot of these young egg donors are producing 20, 30 eggs. Who needs 20, 30 eggs? Especially if they're good quality young eggs. So they started doing a program where they share the risk and they share the cost. So 2 things. Shared donor is they'll split those 20 or 30 eggs among 3 different recipient couples or recipients. So that drives the cost of donor egg down, which is a big cost for gay men. That, you know, my surrogacy was $130,000, and I was donating oat eggs, although some of that was IVF. But that's, you know, that's a big cost factor that they can help drive down. The other thing Shady Grove does, and it's more relevant for women like me who are going through this when they get older, but it's actually a good option. They charge about 1.4 times what it costs for a fresh cycle to do what they call the shared risk program. And so you can pay, it's about 1.4 times, and you get 1 fresh cycle. Nobody's ever complained if they got pregnant on the first try, but you do pay more than you would have if you just did the fee-for-service every time you do it. I think it's a really wonderful option. I work with a lot of clients from France. I have somebody who works with me who's from France, and I just was with a French couple who spoke no English at Shady Grove on Thursday and Friday, and the doctor said to them, don't do a one-time shot. And again, actually this was with me, give me enough time and let me be able to change some of the variables, like going from the mother's eggs to the donor egg, or using a good approved uterus like a surrogate, and I will get you pregnant 90% of the time if you stick with it. And if you buy into the shared risk program, you get 6 fresh cycles, up to 6 fresh cycles, and hopefully you don't need to do anywhere near that many, but you do a fresh cycle, and then if they're good quality embryos, you use the frozen ones, and then if you need to, you do another fresh cycle. The cool thing about that is, if you buy into the shared risk program, if you don't get a baby that comes home from the hospital, they'll give you your money back, the IVF clinic will. So I was challenged by one of the doctors at Shady Grove about 8 months ago and said, I've been challenging agencies and saying, why don't you give a money back guarantee? So I thought about it and I said, okay, I think I can do that because I know those guys at Shady Grove are smart enough that they play the numbers and they get 85% success rate. And so I just back it up with theirs and I only offer the shared risk for Shady Grove clients who are doing shared risk. But I will give you your agency feedback if you don't come back with a baby. So again, just like Shady Grove's, mine is a little bit more expensive than it would be if you just paid me and didn't have this money back guarantee. But you know, I don't think you're going to complain if you go home with a baby. So I have information for everybody on, you know, I actually have intended parent questionnaires in there. I'd love to get everybody's email or card. I didn't bring the sign-up sheet. I have it downstairs, but I'll just maybe pass around my book. And questions, specific questions. Yeah.
How do you get people to sign up? I mean, first stage to sign up on your website. Where are you getting people to sign up from?
There are surrogacy websites, Sarah Moms Online, and there are like 3 big surrogacy websites. Craigslist, believe it or not. I sort of hate to tell people that, but we get a lot of good people there. Penny Saver. I mean, you know, places where like stay-at-home moms would be reading or looking for coupons or what have you. The other thing is, most of my surrogates recently have been somehow connected to the medical field. They're in, you know, they're front desk person at a medical clinic, they're in nursing school. One of the other things I do, going off, but yeah, I mean those places, a lot of sort of word of mouth.
So
Yeah.
I guess the surrogate could apply to you and apply to others as well.
Yeah, they could.
And how does the surrogate choose? Typically, how does the surrogate choose?
They don't typically apply to a whole lot of places. Maybe they'll do the website application to a lot of places, but one good thing about me is I call them the moment I see it, if they're a good qualified surrogate. A lot of the bigger agencies, I had a surrogate who was working with one of the really big agencies, and she said they asked her to upload her medical records online before she even talked to a person. So I think I'm finding good quality surrogates because I'm there and I talk to them and I answer all their questions. I, you know, on time, I return phone calls, same as I would with you. Yeah, and I treat them like I respect them because I really do respect them. And you know, I know that they're doing it for altruistic reasons. I also know that there's a financial component, so I don't want to be like this Pollyanna person. But I will not take anybody who's on any kind of federal aid. So, did that answer your question? Yes.
So when you go for the home visits, how often is it that you get to the home and it's different from what you expected? Or if you get there and you're disappointed or there's a problem there, what is it usually?
So far I've done a pretty good job of pre-screening and I've not had a problem. What I haven't liked is, you know, a home that had gerbils, rabbits, cats. I mean, one of the things pregnant women can't change cat litter. You know, so I put that in the home study report. Needs to be in the contract. She cannot change cat litter. She had a 14-year-old kid who did it, so it was fine. But those are the kind of things I look for. You know, I've only been around 2.5 years, so I haven't had any home studies that I rejected the person.
But what are you looking for when you go, I guess, because we get
I
to
would
go
say-
too, and I
Yeah,
kind of always wonder,
Yeah.
you know, you have a great conversation or a Skype
Right,
call and you like
right.
the person, but then you're flying there to meet them
Right.
and their husband and their family, and I think to myself, well, what am I supposed to be looking for?
Right.
What might I see when I get
Right,
there that
right,
would make me not want to go
I
forward?
mean, the things I'm worried about, with a specific surrogate I'm about to go see in Georgia is just what neighborhood you live in, if it's safe enough. Just the general sort of cleanliness of the home. You want to make sure that the person is organized, because this is somebody, it's a really delicate dance to balance the donor egg retrieval. So all of this is going on with medication. So the surrogate is on birth control pills, and then So she's on birth control pills, and then she's taking hormones through shots. It all keys off of the egg donor. So when the egg donor is ready to ovulate and they give her the trigger shot that lets her release the eggs, the uterus of the surrogate has to be ready to receive it. So it really is very time sensitive, and they actually monitor the lining of the uterus so that they can, they know that it's appropriate and able to accept the embryo when it's implanted, so that it's implanted. So you want somebody who's organized, who's not going to miss an appointment, who's not going to take her shots at the wrong kind of day, because that can affect the success rate. So I really look for just somebody who's organized, who follows up with me. I mean, on purpose sometimes I will say I'm going to call at a certain time, and I'll wait a half an hour and see if somebody calls me back. Just if I have some sort of feeling